So good morning. Okay. How are you? You okay? I'm doing good. Okay. So we'll start with the environment part of our prelims special classes. As you can see, before we start with our classes, a little bit of guidance regarding prelims for the people who are going to appear for the very first time. Okay. How many of you are appearing for the very first time? Just a few minutes of talk regarding the prelims preparation, then we'll start with our classes, right? So before we start with our classes, some idea about the weightage of the various subjects in prelims. So over here you can see I have the data from 2011 to 2017 for the various subjects that we have in prelims. Here I'll be specially concentrating on environment, some aspects of geography as well related to map pointing. Talking about environment, if you see, in 2011 we had 15 questions coming from environment. In 2012 it had grown up to 17. Again in 2013, 17, 2014 we had 18 questions. In 15, 11, 16 we had again 18 questions. 17 we had 15. And as per the last prelims paper that we had in 2018, there were around 13 questions which had come from environment. So one thing that you can see that of late, that is after 2016, the weightage has been a little less comparatively, like 15 in 2017, and in 2018 we had around 13 questions. So there are high chances that in the upcoming examination, the number of questions will increase a great deal. It will be back somewhere around 17, 18 questions. That is what is expected. So the weightage is going to be high again this coming examination. So this becomes very, very important. You have to concentrate on this. And one thing we know is that environment is a subject where like 1/5 of the paper will be focused on this subject, mainly because you see the prelims is an example of a common examination for both. That is both category of services. You have the civil services as well as the forest services, the IFS or Indian Forest Service. Like the prelims is a common examination for both. So you can expect that the weightage of environment is not going to reduce any further. It can only increase from now. Okay? So one thing that is expected is around 17 to 18 questions this year, high chances of it. So you have to concentrate a lot on this particular subject. There are a few subjects in UPSC. If you go by the past year papers, then you will understand that there are a few subjects where a lot of emphasis is put on the current affairs. But so environment is one among them where you get to see a lot of emphasis is there on the current affairs, but then to understand the current affairs it is highly necessary that you are thorough with the the static part of the concepts. So this is extremely important. So in all the subjects you have to link the static part with the current affair, but putting a little bit more emphasis on the current affair is necessary for a few subjects. One among them is the environment. Other than that, of course, science and tech and other subjects are there where you have to put a lot of emphasis on the current affair, but environment is definitely one of the most most important subject that we have in our prelims. Now I believe that all of you at some point of the time or the other would have gone through the static part of environment. All of you? Some idea you have? Okay. A few things before I start. So just have a look at the other subjects as well in case if it helps you or you want some information. You can see polity and all, they also have very high weightage almost every year in prelims. So that is something which you really cannot ignore. Now talking about environment specifically or for any of the static subjects, I hope all of you are doing the previous year papers. Previous year, this is something which is absolutely mandatory that previous years 20 to 22 years का जो prelims का paper आता है, any publication, but what I have is the Disha publications. So you can go by any of the publications का this matter which comes previous years 20 to 22 years paper. I hope all of you are doing it and ऐसा करो कि almost memorize ही हो जाए. You get direct questions तो will not come. But the knowledge that you gather by doing this will indirectly help you to solve many of the questions. And this has been proved again and again. Okay? So previous year questions, especially for the static subjects, is absolutely mandatory. Are you all doing it? Okay? If you have not yet done it, kindly start right now because there is hardly any time left now. Okay? Start doing the previous year's papers from now on itself. Next, this is something which you have to do. Again, there is something that I had earlier also mentioned once, that before 2nd of June, I hope that you are preparing to at least sit for 50 to 60 mock tests. Absolutely essential. Okay? This is something which you have to do, personal experience. 50 to 60 mock tests if you sit for it, and that too when you are appearing for the mock test at your house, please appear in an exam like format. Like you specifically sit for 2 hours, give the examination for 2 hours, and during the time of the examination, please do not concentrate elsewhere. Close the door of your room, switch off your mobile if necessary, but give the exam in a proper exam like environment. So when you mold yourself, when you are molding your mental thinking in this manner for the next 2.5 months, then automatically when the actual date comes, it will not be anything special, or you don't have to do, you don't have to take up any extra effort. It will be just like a normal routine. So this should become a part of your routine, irrespective of the classes that you are having. Every single day from now on, please ensure that you are sitting for one mock test at your house. So 2 hours gone for your mock test, right? And after that, you take a bit of break, 45 minutes, have your breakfast or whatever. And another thing over here, many of us, I think, are more comfortable with studying during the night. Anybody amongst you who is more comfortable at night? Even I used to be the same, you know. Okay, raat ko, I was more comfortable right from my school days, class 3 se. But I would suggest, because all the examinations are going to take place in the morning, so your mind should be at its most alert state during the morning. So during that time, around 9:30 to say 11:30, during that phase when the examination happens actually, that phase is when you should actually appear for your mock test, if possible. If you're in the class, that's different. But if not, what I would say, right from now on itself, reduce 1 hour from night and add 1 hour to your morning routine. So that way, slowly try to modify your biological clock so that you become more alert during the day. You understand it's high time now. There's hardly any time left. So whatever you have to do, everything should be prelims focused. Okay? So appear for your mock test at home during the morning time, not at night. And after you have appeared for the mock test, take a bit of break. After that, kindly analyze the test. And this is what I keep on stressing. Okay, analyze your performance. When I say analyze your performance, it does not only mean that how much marks you are getting. That is not what is necessary. I mean, it's just for your understanding, that's fine, but then that is not all. Analysis, when I say, it should go on for, again, I am a slow learner, I take a lot of time to learn. So usually for a 2 hours paper, I analyze the paper for around 5 to 6 hours every day. Every day when you sit for the mock test, analyze your performance. When I say analyze your performance, it means that look at each of the questions, see why you have marked a particular question as a particular option, and then check whether that one is correct or not, first thing. After you have checked whether it is correct or not, next you see why the others are incorrect. What should have been the question for the other options to have been correct. So by this method, what you are doing is that from one question, you are not only getting one particular knowledge, like one bit of knowledge, but at the same time, what you are doing is that you are reading around the question, you are reading around the topic, and you are having a thorough and a much more holistic perspective about the topic. So what I am saying is that it's just not enough to know that what is the correct, what is the incorrect answer, but also you have to ask yourself, also read up on the topic, why the other options are incorrect, or what should have been the question, what could have been the question, so that the other questions or other options could have been correct. So basically you are trying to get into the mind of the examiner, and once you do that for 50-60 tests, trust me, once you look at a question, it will be much easier for you to understand what the examiner had in mind while setting that question. Then that is very necessary. Okay, many of the times you will see for many of the subjects, we tend to overthink. Sometimes the question is asking you about the consequences of a particular action. So we tend to think about the long-term consequence without understanding what the question is actually asking for. Basically, something happens like this with economic subjects like that. We tend to overstretch our thinking. And that is what you can avoid once you can understand the mind of the examiner. Are you understanding? So trust me, once you go through this entire process, this entire practice of trying to understand what kind of questions can be asked from that topic, you'll slowly get that kind of experience to understand what the examiner had in mind while setting up a particular question. Okay? So when I'm saying analysis, kindly analyze your paper, take time, understand the thing, okay, why that particular option is incorrect, etc. If there is a particular topic where you see that you are getting a lot of questions wrong, incorrect, then kindly go back to the standard books and read up on that topic a little more. Also, I would suggest Wikipedia. It is a very good source, especially for the static subjects. You can read up on Wikipedia. There are a lot of information that you get from there. Okay? Any particular topic you feel that you are not understanding, everybody just go to Wikipedia, check it over there, and then you can come back and see if that is answering your questions or not. Okay, analysis of the thing is very necessary for 5 to 6 hours. Don't compromise on this. Next, of course, the revision aspect. Now, I hope again, all of you who are seriously preparing for prelims would have made your own notes, at least of the NCERTs, because you cannot go and revise the NCERTs, that 50-60 pages of NCERTs before examination. You have to compress the entire thing, and that has to be done on the basis of what kind of questions had come from the previous years. Okay? So the thing is, revision is extremely important. Again, keep some time for revision, mock test, analysis, your normal classes, plus try to ensure that you are at least going through a few previous year papers every single day. Now the thing is, what happens when you see that there are certain topics where you are getting your questions wrong or your answers wrong again and again. I would suggest that you please have a notebook beside you. Once you are sitting down for your mock test, you have a notebook beside you where you will note down such topics and such kind of information which you are being unable to remember, right? Before your examination, that notebook is going to be what you are going to revise in the last 1 week. So all these mock tests, previous year papers, whatever information you find that they are new to you, you have never read them in the standard books, note them down in the notebook and revise that before, like 1 week before the examination. Did you get this? And this is going to be extremely important. This is going to fetch a lot of marks. Okay? Another thing that I keep on saying, and again I can see a few new faces, so I will reiterate, the thing is about your gut feeling. Now developing that gut feeling is very, very important. Try to understand in the prelims paper, out of the 100 questions that will be there, if you have prepared well, then you would know definitely the answer of around 50 questions, more or less. If the paper is not extremely tough, then you would know more or less the answer to 50 out of that 100 questions. But that 50 is not going to get you through. So there will be another 35 that you have to definitely attempt. So again, I keep on saying 85 question minimum is necessary. If you are not attempting 85, I would say don't go beyond 90 as well, because that would be a little bit of too much of overconfidence. So 85 to 90 is more or less okay, because if you go below it, then there are high chances you might get more more number of questions wrong, and you might not have sufficient numbers of correct questions in order to get you through. So a safe number would be around 85. That is what my experience tells me. And 85 you definitely have to attempt. Okay? Do not try to attempt like 99. Many of my friends used to do it. 99 questions or 100 questions out of 100. Ye mat karna. Because trust me, none of us are superhuman, so we will definitely get a lot of things wrong. And more or less देखा गया है कि around 4 to 5 questions in every paper will be such which are very difficult even for a well prepared candidate to attempt. So there are going to be certain questions which you have to skip, and you don't have to feel guilty about skipping them, because even the best prepared candidates will be skipping them. What you should be more concerned about is getting this 35 correct, or at least maximum part of that 35 questions correct. So here a lot of, out of this 35 questions, there will be your gut feeling will be at play. Also, there will be something called as elimination method that you will have to employ to get this 35 or at least maximum part of this 35 correct. So this, I hope all of you are aware about the elimination method. Yes, elimination method, what does it talk about? Okay, we don't have to know what is definitely the correct answer, but what we definitely have to know is what is definitely the wrong answer. Once we are able to strike off the wrong answer, then the probability of getting it right actually increases. This particular elimination method, this works through educated guesswork. Okay? And this you can only develop during these mock tests. So the practice of trying out this elimination method has to be done during the mock test, not on the day of the examination. So जितने भी आपको experiments करने हैं, whatever experiments you have to do regarding elimination method or regarding, let's say, even trusting your gut feeling, sometimes you will see that on seeing a particular question, you will immediately feel that maybe option B is the correct answer without thinking over it much. So this, where does this come from? This comes from that gut feeling, that sixth sense that we have. And this develops through the subconscious mind. Basically, I have seen myself that even if you just sit in the room without actually actively listening to the classes, something or the other gets registered in your subconscious mind. And then in the examination hall, when you look at a question, suddenly that knowledge will come back or flash back in your mind, and you will realize, but then again, if you think too much on that, then your answer will change. So whether your gut feeling is actually directing you to the right answer or not, to check that you have to try them out in this mock paper only. If you see that your gut feeling is directing you to the right answer for most of the time, you can trust it even during the actual examination. Are you understanding this? So ये जो सारे experiments है to understand your own unique ability, be it about the sixth sense or the gut feeling or educated guesswork, whatever it is. Sometimes you will see that, let's say 85 questions tak to theek hai, but you see ke your gut feeling is telling you that you can actually attempt 2 or 3 more questions. Check whether, if you like in this mock test itself, sometimes go for 90 questions and see how much you are getting. Out of those which you had, for which you answer you did not know properly, see whether you are getting those questions correct or not. Maybe you can try out sometimes 95, not more than that, 95 you can try out during the mock paper. Maybe out of this 95, you have done 10 questions which you did not know much, just by gut feeling you have tried out. See how many, see any amount of positive mark is actually beneficial. Instead of completely skipping 10, if you see that your gut feeling is actually helping you to at least get some questions out of this correct and ultimately get some positive marks, that is also going to get you through. Are you understanding? So this is something which you have to try out during the mock test only. Try to do that from now on itself. Okay? See whether your gut feeling is actually directing you to the right answer or not. Yes, please. Again, if you go through the previous year question, you will understand. Static part, it is much, much less. I mean, almost very less. Yes. Again, if you look at science and technology classes, the concerned faculty will be a better judge to tell you about it. So, but just from my experience, if you see the things that you have to concentrate more upon, if you are a science student who has studied till class 10 in science and you are more or less okay with it, if you are aware about the basic concepts of science, I would say at max you can just revise quickly within a day at max, but don't take more time than that. I mean, static part is very less. देखो usually कहा जाता है if you have your examination in June, then May mid तक पढ़ना चाहिए ideally. But again, due to the lack of time, due to the paucity of time, sometimes if you have to follow this schedule plus classes, previous year questions, mock test, उसका analysis, फिर revision, उसके बाद classes, then maybe आपको अभी time उतना ज़्यादा मिलेगा नहीं for newspaper. I would say कि right now, considering that not even 3 months are left, and if you are seriously appearing for this prelims, from my again opinions will vary, but my honest opinion would be कि अभी it is not the time to make notes out of newspapers. There is very little time. So अभी you can just go through the newspaper quickly, but don't make notes because that will require a lot of research and then you have to write down things. So abhi na, just go through the newspaper and rely on the current affair magazines which you are getting from institute and other places. Okay. Plus, when you appear for the mock test, you will see that the important current affairs will anyhow be there in the questions. So there also you will be able to revise the thing. So I would say right now don't try to make notes. My opinion, again opinions will vary from person to person. So that is what ideally it is something which is not, I believe it is not necessary. Previous year के जो questions होते हैं, अगर आप देखते हो they are purely based on current affairs. If it is not purely current affair or if it is using, let's say कहीं पे there is some missile or some satellite कहीं ना कहीं पे and some amount of information has been given regarding cryopreservation or things of that. So what is that cryopreservation etc. इन सारे चीजों के बारे में आपको जानना है. Maybe not exactly उस मिसाइल में या तो सैटेलाइट में what technologies were used because अभी तो जाके अपग्रेड हुआ होगा. But if there is some static part which is being discussed in the previous, so that static part I believe you should do. Any kind of questions that you have regarding prelims based preparation? Right now, again considering the amount of time left we have right now, not even 2.5 months, I would say कि थोड़ा सा कम कर दो your preparation for mains. Because ultimately अगर prelims ही clear नहीं हो पाता है, and this is the stage where maximum elimination will take place. If you see, then around 10 lakh will register, 5 or 6 lakh will sit for it, but then maximum elimination, let's say even if 12,000 appear for the mains examination, maximum elimination takes place at this stage. Even the best of the best will get eliminated over here, provided they do not have that kind of mindset to actually appear for prelims. So it requires a completely different type of mindset. What we keep on saying is that prelims will require extensive preparation. Extensive means jack of all trades. Whereas the mains requires a much more intensive preparation where you have to know about the pros and cons of various schemes or different type of stuff. Whatever topic you are studying, uska pros, cons analysis karna hota hai. Overall, here also it is necessary, but what is very necessary for prelims is that you should have, you should cast your net wide. जहां से भी आपको हो सकता है, try to gather information. You never know which one comes in handy. देखो, history का तो there is no area for art and culture. There is a lot of emphasis, a lot of weightage of current affairs. If you see, if I remember correctly, again, I'm not the concerned faculty, but if you remember correctly, there was one particular year, 2015 or 14, I guess, 14 or 15 था, जहाँ पे there was a lot of weightage on the static part of art and culture. But उसके बाद से, because it is impossible to remember so much, at least so far as I'm concerned, I cannot remember so much of art and culture, so much of such a diverse country and so much of art and culture. So they have, if you see in the latest years, they have put a lot of emphasis on the current affair aspect of art and culture. So I would say कि थोड़ा सा ज़्यादा weightage है towards the current affairs part of art and culture. Polity देखो, again you have to relate ना. Polity का I think classes have already been conducted, right? Where anybody will understand कि if there is some news in the some article is right now in the news, then you have to see current affairs में कि why it is there in the news, what is all the controversy about. Then you have to go to the constitution and see what the constitution is saying about it. So that kind of interrelationship you have to establish, especially in case of polity. Even in case of all the subjects, that is true in case of all subjects when I am talking about UPSC. If you are having 95 means 95, you might feel after seeing 95 questions, okay, I have seen this particular word somewhere. But that does not mean कि जो भी statements दिया गया है उसके नीचे, whatever statements have been provided below that, you are aware about all the statements. What I'm saying is that it is not enough to just know that term. Maybe I may be aware about a particular terminology, but that might not be sufficient for you to 100% attempt that question. What I'm saying is that just by knowing the terminology, don't try to attempt the question. See if you are aware about the other things. What I'm trying to say over here is that let's say कोई एक question है, उसके लिए you have A, B, C and D. Attempt this question only if you are able to strike off 2, मतलब 50-50. If you do not know anything, let's say you have some terminology which you are aware of, but you do not know ABCD उसके बारे में ज़्यादा कुछ. Yes, that is what will be there. Na? ये 35 questions will be such कि जहाँ पे you will have this 50-50. If you have this 50-50 option, I would say please go for some educated guesswork. Let's say if you are able to definitely strike off B and C, if definitely, here you should not try to do guesswork. If you are able to definitely strike off two options and you are left with two, I would say attempt this question. Don't leave it. Okay? क्योंकि see, there are from the probabilities point of view, there are higher chances that if such questions come where you are definitely able to strike off two options and you are left with 50-50 chances, if there are 10 such questions, maybe you will get correct 6 of them, maybe wrong 4. 4 wrong and 6 correct, but then also you are getting some positive. So if this is the case, again from experience, I am not saying that this is 100% going to work, but this is what is I have seen from my experience. Okay, if you are able to strike off two options, and prelims being so competitive nowadays, I would say don't leave out that question. Go for it. There will be some amount of gamble that you have to take. You cannot play completely safe. So regarding you 95 questions, 85 tak I would say ke go for it. After that, for the next 10 questions, after that do it part wise. After that try to go for 5 more questions. Then if you see that, let's say you are still left with 5 jiske bare mein you are somewhat aware of, see if you can come up with this. But ये सारे जो practice है ना, do this in the mock, see what is happening. Accordingly you sit for your examination and decide what you are going to do. But I would say try this out in the mock, see how much you are getting. But definitely one thing is assured, 3:1 ratio has to be there, which means that you can get 1 incorrect if you are getting 3 correct. If this ratio gets disturbed, then there are high chances that you will not clear the cutoff. And also you have to understand that here you only have to clear the cutoff. You don't have to stand first, you don't have to. So around 120, 125, 130, that should be our target. Getting it? So don't have to go for very high targets, you know. Like don't try to think I have to attempt 90, 95, 100 questions out of 100 questions. That is not necessary. Understood? And one more thing which I have seen many of my friends as well as many of the students in the previous batches getting wrong is that many of us have the tendency to first mark in the question paper and then at the end decide to circle in the OMR sheet. Is that what you do? If you are doing that, kindly don't. You don't know what kind of disaster can take place. Let's say you are marking in the question paper and then decide, okay, last 1 hour I will mark or last half an hour I will mark in the OMR sheet. Even if one you get wrong, the entire sequence after that, because you are under a lot of pressure. You have paucity of time. Aapke paas time bhi shortage. Already you are appearing for your first prelim, so you are under a lot of pressure. So there are high chances that if you get 1 or 2 incorrect, let's say you can see in the question paper that the answer is C, but then by mistake under that pressure you mark it as B, and after that all the other ones might go incorrect. That will be a complete disaster. 1 year of preparation, so much of effort, hard work will go to waste. So kindly, my request to you, because I have seen many good candidates failing at this stage in the prelims just due to this silly mistake that they do. Please, when you are when you are checking the question and you are marking in the paper, immediately you circle in the OMR sheet as well. This is something which you definitely have to do and practice that when you are appearing for your mock. Okay, when you are checking some question in the question paper, immediately you darken the circle in the OMR sheet as well. This is one thing. Second thing, okay, whatever time has been given, kindly do not think like this, okay, I will, let's say if you have 2 hours, so I'll give 50 questions for the first hour, I'll give 50 questions for the second hour. Don't do like this. 100% try to do it like this. And this is again what I have seen actually fetches result. Okay, within let's say 1 hour 10 minutes, you have to go through the entire 100 questions in your first iteration. 1 hour 10 or 1 hour 15 minutes at max. So the entire paper has to be attempted in iterations. What I mean to say is that within 1 hour 15 minutes you go through entire 100 questions. Whatever you are definitely aware of or you are sure of, you are marking them there itself. And whatever you feel that there are some amount of possibilities of you getting it incorrect or you are not very sure of it, उसको mark करके उसको circle करके रख दो in your paper. That is in your first iteration. So all 100 questions you have checked in the first 100 questions you have checked in the first iteration. Then after that 1 hour 15 minutes, maybe take another 20 or 30 minutes to go for the next iteration. That will be a second iteration, where you are going to concentrate upon those questions where you have circled them, which means that around 50-50 chances are there of getting it correct. So within that second iteration, you should have got at least 70 questions in your bag. Then you are left with around what, 15 minutes at max, 20 minutes at max. So within that last, you go for the third iteration. That is where you are trying to maximize your answers. So there you are going to attempt around 15 to 20 questions again to try to get to that range, 85 to 90 range. Are you understanding this? So the entire question has to be attempted in 3 iterations, and do that in the mock test itself. First iteration 1 hour 15 minutes, that is the main portion jahan pe you are segregating the questions into what you can definitely do, what you cannot remember anything at all, and third part is where you are a little confused between 2 options, 50-50 chances. Okay, so do it in iterations and that is going to help you. For iterations means, can you be a little clear about that? If you are confused between 3 options, then I would say okay, either try to eliminate one option, otherwise skip that question. 3 options, if you are confused of, then there are high chances. When will you attempt such questions? When you can see that you are not being able to attempt beyond, say, let's say 60 questions. That is when you definitely have to go for such kind of risk. Otherwise, if you are being able to, let's say, more or less attempt 70 questions, 75 questions, don't take such risk where you cannot, when you can eliminate only one option, because there your chances of getting it wrong will be kind of very high. मैं वही बोल रहा हूँ, if such a situation arises where you see that out of that 85 which you have to attempt, you are not being able to attempt, let's say you have been able to attempt only around 65 to 70. If such a scenario arises, then you have to take some risk. Okay. Out of the 65 to 70 questions, 20 questions will not be correct, you are saying. The rest you are 100% aware of. Again, if you are 100% aware, okay, only around let's say 20 questions you are going to get incorrect, baki sare you are going to get it correct. So just check if the entire ratio is coming out to be around that 120 mark. If you are 100% sure of it, then you don't have to take risk. Why I am saying is that because I had a friend who at one point of time when we all had attempted beyond 80-85 questions, she had attempted only around this 60 questions. Okay? And we were kind of, she was a very brilliant student, and we were very confused, why did you only attempt 60 questions jabki you could have attempted this much? And she did not say much, she was a very quiet introvert kind of a girl. When the results came out, she had got 58 out of this 60 correct. So when you have that kind of accuracy, then it's different, but that is not possible for normal people. So when you get 58 correct, then you are automatically crossing the boundary. So that is fine, but otherwise for normal people I would say keep some room for your error point. There will be certain questions which I might get incorrect even if I know the theory etc, but फिर भी मुझे थोड़ा सा confusion हो रहा है. Any question that you have? Yes, please. हाँ जी. Any other question that you have? So are you clear about the strategy for your next 2.5 months? This is what is going, and again don't think of it like you have still around what 75 days left. Don't think of it like that, think like you have 60 days left. because last 15 days that you have, that is going to be spent in revising the areas which you are very weak in. So 60 days pakad ke chalo ab se. And last 15 days is going to be just for your revision purpose. The night before the examination, please don't try to read too much. Relax. एकदम से follow your normal routine. अलग से कुछ करने का जरूरत है नहीं, and sleep well. There have been nights just before the examination when I could not sleep at all. होता है. If this is your first prelims, it will happen. Try to sleep. That is what I'm saying. Okay? So, and also don't eat too much. I mean, keep it light, because you have to stay healthy right now. Okay? That is very necessary. Okay, so this aspect I guess we are clear about. And one more thing, many of the times, many of the students ask me, what would be a safe get in the mock test? Somewhere I would say around 85 to 90 again would be a safe score. If you are getting that, and please, when you are attempting mock test, kindly attempt both types of tests. Like, don't only go for the full length examinations. At the same time, kindly attempt the sectional ones also. Where, because sectional sectional tests are where a lot of emphasis will be put on the detailed part, on the detailed concepts, so which might not be possible in case of the full length examinations. So when you are attempting mock tests, both sectional as well as full length you have to attempt. Is that understood? Okay, so we'll start with our class today. When we are discussing each of the topics, we'll go back a bit into the static part, come back to the current affairs section, try to link them up. Okay? So both the things are revised for us. We will be able to revise both of them. Last year we get to see one interesting thing was done, that was Kanchenjunga. There was a news regarding this. What was the news about? Okay, can we get, what we are going to try to do is that, first initially I'll go for crowdsourcing. Like, let me see what we are already aware of. If there is something that I need to add, I'll add it over here. Okay, UNESCO World Heritage Site. Is it Kanchenjunga Biosphere Reserve? Okay, what was the news about? So what he is saying is that UNESCO World Heritage Site was declared about this particular thing. Anything else? Mixed type of, okay, mixed type of. Okay. Anything else? Sorry, come again. Floods affected. Okay. Anything else? Anything that we remember regarding this particular topic? Kanchenjunga Biosphere Reserve, why it was in the news? What we have learned till now is that it is a World Heritage Site, it's a mixed type of heritage site. Anything else? Okay, before I go into the news, थोड़ा सा बात करते हैं regarding Biosphere Reserve. What do we know regarding Biosphere Reserve? What is a Biosphere Reserve? Any idea that we are aware of? Achha, one thing that we know that it is a type of protected area, can I say? All, अच्छा, what is the major objective of a biosphere reserve? Again, before I go into the biosphere reserve aspect, थोड़ा सा बाकी protected areas के बारे में बात करते हैं, then I'll again come back to biosphere reserve. What are the other protected areas that we are aware of? Achha, are we aware about a particular act of India which is considered to be a milestone in the conservation of wildlife in India, something called as the Wildlife Protection Act of India? Which year? 1972. Okay. Wildlife Protection Act of India, it ensures a few things. What is the importance of this particular act, Wildlife Protection Act of India? Can somebody tell me what is the importance of Wildlife Protection Act of India, WPA 1972? What is the importance? What does it establish? Does it establish something? Okay, so one thing we understand that what it does is that it establishes a few lists which we call as schedules, right? So under this we have all the animals, the birds and all these plants as well of India being put under a few lists जिनको हम लोग schedules बोलेंगे. So we have like schedule 1, we have schedule 2, 3, 4, 5 and how many? How many schedules? 6 schedules are there, okay. Okay, let us quickly discuss on these. So schedule 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6 we have. Wildlife Protection Act का importance क्या है? One is that it establishes these 6 schedules. Now in these 6 schedules we will get to see all the plants, animals, etc. They have been categorized. And if we go from the top, then the highest amount of protection has been given to schedule 1 and 2 and likewise it keeps on reducing. So you will get to see that animals like the tiger, like the elephant, all of them have been put under schedule 1. Similarly for schedule 2 and 3, so basically amount of it denotes the amount of protection that India affords or India provides to the animal. If it's a schedule 1 species or if it is a part 2 of schedule 2 species, then it is provided the highest amount of protection. Okay? Now coming to schedule 3, 4, 5 and 6, is there something specific regarding schedule 5 that we are aware of? Schedule 5 consists of vermin species. What is a vermin? What is a vermin? जिनको हम लोग मार सकते हैं without us being punished. Like if there is a rat in your house, then you might spray that rat poison, etc. And if the rat dies, you won't be arrested, right? No. So these vermins, when I say vermins, these species, these are considered to be a nuisance to man, like to life, to property. So they are considered to be a nuisance or a source of disturbance to life and property, and that is why you can kill or you can eliminate such species freely without attracting any kind of penalties, right? So you can have things like rats, crows, etc. under this vermin species. What about schedule 6? Schedule 6 consists of plant species. Remember this. So even plants are protected under Wildlife Protection Act. The name is Wildlife Protection Act, but under this plants are also getting protection. That is where one particular topic jahan se they might ask you questions. If you are not aware that one particular schedule has been dedicated towards the conservation of plants, you might get that wrong. So what kind of plants? Can you give me some examples? How do we protect plants? So basically what the Wildlife Protection Act of India is saying is that such kind of plants you cannot extract them from the wild, you cannot keep them at your home, you cannot cultivate them at your home, you have to keep them in the wild itself, you cannot take them away from the wild. Are you understanding? So if you are found in possession of such a plant at your house or something, then you can be prosecuted. So what kind of plants? Any name that you are aware of? देखो कुछ नाम आप याद रखो, ठीक है? Just in case if it asked. This is one, Bedomes. 2 is 1, Bedomes. 3 is 2, 4 is 4, 5 is 6, 7 is 7, 8 is 8, 9 is 9, 10 is 10, 11 is 11, 12 is 12, 13 is 13, 14 is 14, 15 is 15, 16 is 16, 17 is 17, 18 is 18, 19 is 19, 20 is 20, 21 is 21, 22 is 22, 23 is 23, 24 is 24, 25 is 25, 26 is 26, 27 is 27, 28 is 28, 29 is 29, 30 is 30, 31 is 31, 32 is 32, 33 is 33, 34 is 34, 35 is 35, 36 is 36, 37 is 37, 38 is 38, 39 is 39, 40 is 40, 41 is 41, 42 is 42, 43 is 43, 44 is 44, 45 is 45, 46 is 46, 47 is 47, 48 is 48, 49 is 49, 50 is 50, 51 is 51, 52 is 52, 53 is 53, 54 is 54, 55 is 55, 56 These are the plants which are included under our schedule 6. Meadow cycad, red vanda, blue vanda, kut, lady sleeper orchids, pitcher plant. If any of these plants you are found, in possession of, then you may be prosecuted. So you are not allowed to take them. Okay? Achha. So this is regarding schedule 6. Coming back to our schedule 5, is it possible to put any of the animals under these schedules under schedule 5? Yes? Yes. So can I put a tiger under schedule 5 species? No. If it is wild. But here all the animals and plants are wild only. If it is permissible. Okay. Okay. Let's say मैं एक simple, हाँ, जैसे कि मैं question कर रहा हूँ कि अगर एक tiger, let's say a tiger is, can I put the species tiger under schedule 5? Or can I put the species, let's say elephant under schedule 5? Can we? Okay. Okay. See, question when they ask you, they are going to target things like this. Last year there was a lot of halchal regarding a particular tigress called as Avni. If you remember Avni. There was a killing of this Avni, which was considered to be illegal. Then she had cubs, she had orphaned, like those cubs became orphaned. It was a samajhte is cheez ko. Okay. Okay. Let me just try to clear this confusion. Ek bar. No animal, if it is included under schedule 1 or if it is included under part 2 of schedule 2, no animal under these schedules can be put under schedule 5. Is that understood? Isko 100% आप समझ जाओ. Maybe a particular tigress would have become a man-eater. That is only applicable for that particular tigress. If it is established that animal has become a man-eater, tab jaake the government can issue orders, but also there is a particular protocol which has to be followed. This protocol has been stated by NTCA. So initially you have to try to identify which tigress or tiger is causing the issue through camera traps. After that, when that animal has been identified, initially it should be tried to catch that animal alive. In spite of that, repeatedly you should then you have to try to tranquilize the animal. If none of the methods are working and the animal is still exacting a toll on the human lives over there, tab jaake maybe the chief wildlife warden can issue an order for it to be shot dead. But the tiger as a species can never be put under schedule 5 unless and until it is removed from your schedule 1. So any species under schedule 1 or part 2 of schedule 2, they cannot be put under schedule 5. On the other hand, so are you clear about this? Elephant as a species cannot be put. Some elephant is becoming mad, something called as a must. An elephant during a particular period of time, it becomes sexually very active. And it will have all these hormones getting secreted out from the temple area. You can actually see the elephant, uske ye jo kaan ke paas se, you will have some fluid coming out. And that at that point of time, elephant, especially the male tuskers, they become very destructive. They will kill anything in its path. That is called as the must period. But that does not mean elephant as a whole will be shot. Now, if that elephant is killing a lot of human beings, maybe the forest department might decide to shoot it dead. That is different. But as a species, it can never be put under schedule 5, so long as it is under your schedule 1 or part 2 of schedule 2. On the other hand, you will have species like, let's say for example, the wild boar, which are very frequently put under this schedule 5. Or you can have species like, let's say for example, we got to see, right, during the classes I might have told you this wild boar, it is very frequently put under schedule 5, though it originally does not belong to that schedule. So let's say in a particular area the wild boar population has increased to a great extent, and then the farmers are getting affected a lot, and if they request the state government कि आप आके देखो कुछ ना कुछ तो करना है, then the state government can request the central government. The central government then will send a team, review the entire area, check whether it is actually correct, the population of the animal has increased to a great extent that it needs to be put under Schedule 5. Then for that particular area, for a particular period of time, which normally is around a year, an animal can be put under Schedule 5. But that does not mean it extends to the entire country. Is the Wildlife Protection Act applicable all over India? Yes. Except for Jammu and Kashmir. Okay. Apart from that, it is applicable in the entire India except for Jammu and Kashmir. Okay. So animals like wild boar, animals like rhesus macaque, I had given you the example of Himachal Pradesh, जहाँ पे ये rhesus macaque was put under Schedule 5, but that too again for a particular period of time and for a particular area. Similarly, we can have animals like the nilgai or the blue bull जिसको कहा जाता है, like we had seen in case of Bihar. ठीक है, ऐसे animals actually are destroying crops or damaging human beings, property, etc. तो उनको रखा जाता है कभी कभार in Schedule 5 only if the central government approves, of course. But that is for a restricted area for a restricted period of time. But that does not mean it can apply to Schedule 1 animal or Part 2 of Schedule 2. Is that clear? This is where they can ask you questions from. अच्छा, so एक चीज हम लोगों ने अभी तक समझ लिया है कि that is Wildlife Protection Act has a number of schedules. Some of them dedicated to vermin species which you can hunt freely. Some of them dedicated to plants like these. Schedule 1 and Schedule 2 species you cannot put them under Schedule 5. Yes, please. Okay. Number 1, these species, they are not kept in an enclosure as such. They are there. You can hunt them if you are residing in that area where they have been put under Schedule 5. For example, let's say I have a forest area. In this forest, the wild boar population has increased, but they are causing particular damage to a particular district where the forest. So for that particular district, for a particular period of time, this wild boar will be put under Schedule 5. So where the people who are living over there, they can hunt this species without attracting any kind of penalty or that. No, the forest is still holding its own, whatever is the status. It can be reserve forest, protected forest. It can be any forest. But that species has lost protection in this particular area. Not the forest. Forest is still having the same. And the other species are also having similar protection as they used to. Only difference is that particular species which has been, from official sources it has been announced that this species is now under Schedule 5. For that particular area, it has lost its protection, which otherwise would have been protected. If anybody was found killing a wild boar during normal times, could have been prosecuted over here. But when that announcement is there, if it has been put under Schedule 5, even if you kill it, but then even if you kill it, can you consume it? No. Okay, normally in the notification itself, it is very clearly stated it is for population control. This is what we call as culling. Have you ever come across this word culling? Exactly. कहीं पे अगर ऐसा कुछ epidemic, bird flu या something like this happens, तो आप देखोगे उस district के जितने भी birds है, hen population, poultry, etc., उनको पहले से ही मार दिया जाता है ताकि it does not spread easily. This is what is called as culling. So basically controlled killing. And this culling is also done in case of wild animals, especially in case of Western developed countries. Culling is actually a part of conservation. India mein we do not allow culling to take place normally, except when it becomes absolutely a threat to life and property. Otherwise, culling is normally done in case of Western developed countries to keep the population in check. Wolves, etc., they are also culled every year. Most developed countries will do this. Anyway, so are you clear about this aspect of the Wildlife Protection Act? देखो न्यूज कुछ था, मैं थोड़ा सा बैकग्राउंड में जा रहा हूं बिकॉज यू शुड बी वेरी क्लियर अबाउट ऑल दिस. यू कैन नॉट गो रॉन्ग ऑन ऑल दिस. दीज आर absolutely basic static parts. Acha. Apart from establishing these schedules of wildlife, what else does the Wildlife Protection Act do? Anything else? Okay. What kind of protected area? So it establishes protected areas. What kind of protected area will it? Zoo is not a protected area. Zoo is an example of a what kind of conservation? Ex situ. So we have two types of conservation methods. One is in situ conservation, one is ex situ. I'll talk more on this a little later. Before that, apart from that, what kind of protected area does it establish? Wildlife Protection Act of India. Very good. One is national park. Achha, what else? Wildlife sanctuaries. Okay, what else? Very good. Community reserves. Okay, what else? Very good. Conservation reserves. What else? Last one. Achha. Tiger reserves. Now you see, question what will they ask? उनको पता है कि you know names of various type of protected areas. What they will ask you is that Wildlife Protection Act of India establishes which among these. So there can be various names of protected areas which can be there. Like इसको छोड़ के भी you are aware about other protected areas also. What are the other names that you are aware of? Biosphere reserve, इसके बारे में हम लोग बात करेंगे. और marine protected areas. और are you aware about sacred groves? Yes, sacred groves are there. So there can be so many other types of protected areas as well. But please remember, Wildlife Protection Act of India establishes these 5 types only. Only these 5 types. Not more than this, nothing else. Yes, there are other type of protected areas, but for them we have different acts or different things. But under Wildlife Protection Act of India, there are only 5. Is that understood? So keep this in mind. Anything, I'll talk about these protected areas also, we'll just revise the concept a bit. But before that, anything else that the Wildlife Protection Act of India does, apart from establishment of protected areas and making these schedules, what else? Does it establish any body as such? Any kind of body is established by this? Was this particular act amended ever? Was there any amendment of this act done ever? Any idea? In 2006, there was an amendment of this act to actually include a body under it. देखो tiger reserve जब मैं बता रहा हूँ, तो tiger reserve is established by whom or who gives the permission? NTCA or National Tiger Conservation Authority. NTCA और नेशनल टाइगर कंजर्वेशन अथॉरिटी 2014 का प्रीलिम्स में क्वेश्चन आया था. एनटीसीए इज व्हाट टाइप ऑफ बॉडी? कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल बॉडी एक्सेट्रा एक्सेट्रा. ऑप्शन में स्टैट्यूटरी बॉडी भी था. सो व्हाट इज अ स्टैट्यूटरी बॉडी? अ बॉडी व्हिच हैज बीन एस्टैब्लिश्ड by an act. There has to be some act, some legislation behind it. So NTCA is an example of a statutory body because behind it we have the Wildlife Protection Act of India 1972 amended in 2006 to accommodate the NTCA. Are you getting it? NTCA full form is National Tiger Conservation Authority. NTCA is responsible for what? For the implementation of Project Tiger. NTCA is right now the body which implements Project Tiger. Tiger conservation for this year becomes important क्योंकि May में we will have the data for the 2018 tiger census coming up. ठीक है? So maybe if it is in the later part of May, so maybe direct questions you might not be there in the prelims paper. But if it is in the earlier part of May, हो सकता है you can have 1 or 2 questions because this year we will have the result of the 2018 tiger census. ठीक है? Report is supposed to come out in May. So please have some good idea regarding tiger census, how it is done. Class में we had done. If you have any questions, you can ask me now later on. That is also done. But before that, just know that NTCA, it is responsible for the implementation of Project Tiger in India. Project Tiger is what type of scheme? Central sector scheme, central sponsored scheme, what kind of scheme? Centrally sponsored. What does that mean? Is there some kind of sharing of the expenditure between the center and the state? What is the difference between a central sector scheme and a central sponsored scheme? Okay, here let me try to correct you. Till 1980-81, Project Tiger was a central sector scheme where the entire expenditure was borne by the center. From 1981 onwards, it has become a centrally sponsored scheme. Okay? So NTCA runs the Project Tiger or implements the Project Tiger. Project Tiger is an example of centrally sponsored scheme. Similarly, Project Elephant is also an example of a centrally sponsored scheme. Project Rhino? No, there are, see, there is something called as Rhino Vision, IRV we have, but there it is not a centrally sponsored scheme as it. There are many bodies. We will talk about that also. Okay? We have the government of Japan, we have the government of Assam, and we also have the US Fish and Wildlife Association. So there are many bodies which are responsible for that. We'll just have a look at that. Just complete this first. Wildlife Protection Act of India. This NTCA runs Project Tiger, which is a centrally sponsored scheme. Achha. Coming back to our question, एक तो body is NTCA. Wildlife Protection Act of India does that. Any other body? Is there any other body or organization which is established by the by this Wildlife Protection Act of India? और कोई body है ऐसा कुछ? हाँ, exactly. NBWL, National Board of Wildlife. NBWL or the National Board of Wildlife. Highest decision making body regarding wildlife matters in the country. Clear? It is chaired by, who should be the chairman? Prime Minister is the chairman. So that is why it is so important. Highest decision making body. So the chairman is the Prime Minister. Okay, these are things which you have to remember. Why? Because to change the boundary of any of this, इनमें से किसी का भी अगर boundary में कुछ alteration लाना है, so you have to seek the permission of that body, NBWL. That will give you the permission to change the boundary of any of these. Are you understanding this? Okay? So till now what we have seen that it establishes these schedules, and then we have the protected areas. Then we have bodies like NTCA and NBWL, which is it establishes. Also, it gives hunting rights. It gives hunting rights to the indigenous tribals of, let's say, Andaman Nicobar. If they hunt the species, then they won't be prosecuted. So it actually helps the indigenous tribes to maintain their original, hunting gathering type of lifestyle. So it gives the hunting rights to this indigenous tribe. Now coming back, jaldi se mujhe batao, okay, what is the difference between these? Because that is what is very, you tend to get very confused regarding these things. National park or wildlife sanctuary, इनके बीच क्या differences है? जल्दी से, what is the difference? Why it is set up? Yes, please. National park में? Number one, about the amount of protection given. National parks are provided the highest amount of protection. No kind of human activities, as he has mentioned, no kind of human activities are allowed inside a national park, which means extraction of firewood, fishing, ये सारी चीजें, or extraction of honey, nothing of that sort can be done in a national park. On the other hand, when we talk about wildlife sanctuary, some amount of human activities can be allowed with permission from the wildlife warden of the area. Okay, there can be like this extraction of firewood, etc. can be allowed in case of a wildlife sanctuary, not in case of a national park. So in case of protection, अगर देखा जाए, highest amount of protection is given to a to a national park amongst all the different type of protected areas in India. Is that understood? This is number one point of difference. What are the other differences that we are aware of regarding why is it set up in the first place? क्यों set up किया जाता है? Why is a national park set up? Why is a wildlife sanctuary set up? Is there a difference between the two? Okay. Yes, very good. Over here, please understand when we are establishing a wildlife sanctuary, the name itself, wildlife के लिए sanctuary, which means a safe area for a wildlife, for a particular species. So that is why when we have wildlife sanctuaries, normally that is for the protection and conservation of some particular species. Let's say we will have something like a bird sanctuary. For example, Kioladiyo Khana or Bharatpur Bird Sanctuary. So we are specifying Bharatpur Bird Sanctuary is a sanctuary which is meant for the protection of birds. Similarly, let me say, like let's see, you may have heard of this particular species, the Great Indian Bustard. What is this? Very, very critically endangered bird जिसके बारे में you should study. आज ही जाके kindly look at the Great Indian Bustard. सिर्फ Wikipedia देख लो. What is its conservation status, etc., etc. I will tell you what are the aspects you need to look at. ठीक है? When you are looking at a particular species, what are the things that you should focus upon? I will tell you about that. But just understand this Great Indian Bustard is always in the news. Very, very important. You should look at this particular species. अच्छा, coming to this. So you have the Great Indian Bustard Sanctuary. Where is it? कहाँ पे हो सकता है? कौन से स्टेट में? देखो, normally Great Indian Bustards they are associated with grassland ecosystems. Usually we always associate Great Indian Bustards with Gujarat and Rajasthan. Great Indian Bustard Sanctuary is situated in Maharashtra. You will find that it is present in Maharashtra. ठीक है? So there like wild ass sanctuary will be there. ठीक है? So like this you see the name itself is specifying for which particular species that sanctuary has been created. Are you understanding? So wildlife sanctuary is created for a particular species of wildlife. On the other hand, when I talk about a national park, it is created not just for the wildlife, but also for the value of the ecosystem, for the value of the landscape of that entire area. That entire area is ecologically very, very important. Maybe it is the origin of various rivers, maybe it is the home of some indigenous tribe, maybe there is some species which is critically endangered. So there can be multiple reasons why that entire landscape should be protected. So when you declare an area to be a national park, it is meant to protect the entire landscape, not just some particular species of wildlife. Are you understanding the major point of difference? So एक है on the basis of degree of protection. Next is who you are trying to protect. If you are trying to protect the entire landscape, then it is a national park. If you are only talking about protection of a few species, then it is a wildlife sanctuary. Understood? Second point of difference. What else do we know regarding national parks and wildlife sanctuary? What else? What other differences are you aware of? If I talk about the numbers, which is more in number, wildlife sanctuary or national parks? Wildlife sanctuaries are more. Around 543 wildlife sanctuaries all over India are present. Which state will have which state or union territory will have the highest number of wildlife sanctuaries? Andaman Nicobar. 96, around 96 you have wildlife sanctuaries in Andaman Nicobar itself. So wildlife sanctuary around 543 in number, Andaman Nicobar will have the highest. अच्छा, what about national parks? Around 104 के आसपास है, ठीक है? And national parks भी देखा जाए तो again you will have Andaman Nicobar plus you will also have Madhya Pradesh, ठीक है? States like Punjab, they will not have any national park whatsoever. आपको पता होगा green revolution had taken place over there, hence large amount of deforestation and almost all the area that used to be under forest has now been converted into agricultural land. No national park in Punjab. Okay? Again, these are the things that they can focus upon. Now coming to the very critical aspect of it, who establishes what? Which government? State or central? Who will establish national park and who will establish wildlife sanctuary? Okay. let me clear this confusion once. If you go through the entire act itself, it clearly states that it is the state government who will define it, but at the same time the union government also can, in under certain circumstances, define a, it can suggest to the state that you have to create a particular area as a national park or a wildlife sanctuary. So normally it is defined by the state government, but at the same time the central government can also do that same. Are you understanding? It does not require an act, it requires a notification to be passed. It does not require any legislation to be passed in the state assembly, it just requires a notification. Okay? So this is regarding, and if you have to alter the boundary, be it for a national park or for a wildlife sanctuary, if you have to alter the boundary, you have to ask this body, NBWL. That is the body which will give you approval for changing the boundaries of a national park or for a wildlife sanctuary. Is that understood? अच्छा, जल्दी से बताओ, community reserve, conservation reserve, difference क्या है and what are these actually? अच्छा, if you have any kind of question about national parks, wildlife sanctuaries, आप पूछ सकते हो, जो भी आपके मन में आए, whatever questions you feel you can ask. If you still have any kind of doubt still left in your mind, why it has been established, degree of protection, who establishes them, how many are there in number, all this we have discussed. Yes, because we have something called as 2006 Tribal Rights Act, ठीक है, which was also in the news, जिसके बारे में हम लोग बात भी करेंगे. Those areas under that act which have been provided to the particular tribe, so for those tribes it is allowed, because the act itself states there are 4 types of rights which are given under that act. We'll talk about them, okay, what kind of rights are provided under that particular act, where we have scheduled tribes and other forest dwellers, around that, yes. Again, you have the highest in, if you talk about Union Territory, Andaman. If you talk about state, it is in Madhya Pradesh. Just एक बार check लेना, it is Madhya Pradesh or Maharashtra, but I think it is Madhya Pradesh only. Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh. 9, I think, around 9. But I don't think in UPSC they'll be asking you so specific details. More or less they might just mention about, because 96 is quite a great number. So wildlife sanctuary 96 are there in Andaman Nicobar. That is something which they might ask. But again, whether it is 9 or 10, just have to look at it. Coming to this, community reserve and conservation reserve. What do we know? What is a community reserve? What is a conservation reserve? Okay. 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 Let's just clear the concept a little. Jaldi se. Let's say we have 2 protected areas. Okay. We have 2 protected areas, protected area 1 and 2. And these protected areas can be any. Like let's say they can be a national park, wildlife sanctuary, etc., whatever they can be, or a combination of the 2. But then sometimes we will get to see that the animal, maybe because of better protection, in one particular protected area, the animal population might increase quite a great deal. On the other hand, in the other, maybe because of lesser protection, the animal population has reduced. Actually, increasing beyond a certain point is equally bad as is getting decreased beyond a certain point, which means that अगर ज़्यादा increase हो जाता है तो there will be too much of competition. Carrying capacity of that area will be violated. अगर carrying capacity is violated, then there will be a lot of animal deaths taking place due to territorial fights and all. On the other hand, similarly, अगर population बहुत ज़्यादा fall कर जाता है, then there are higher chances that there will be problems like inbreeding taking place. Inbreeding means the same, same gene will get repeated. So it will like brothers, sisters mating with each other. So that is something which is undesirable. That is what is called as inbreeding. It will result in the formation of weaker offsprings, physically, mentally, etc. And those offsprings, they will not be able to survive for too long. Hence, it is very, very essential to create wildlife corridors between these two areas to allow for easy migration of wildlife to and from these protected areas. Are you understanding this? अब ये create कहाँ पे करें? Where will, because mostly we will get to see the area around these areas, मतलब the places around the national parks and wildlife sanctuaries are very thickly populated. So basically you have to acquire the land, which is again a very sensitive topic, politically sensitive topic, because that requires compensation, resettlement of the people, etc. So अगर आप, let's say for example you are establishing a wildlife corridor. When I say wildlife corridor, it is not like a normal corridor that you have in normal buildings, okay? When I say a wildlife corridor, it means an area जहाँ पे, let's say, trees are being grown to provide or to make it appear as if it is an extension of the natural habitat of the wildlife, ताकि they can, without fear, they can easily migrate. There is no such enclosed area that you are creating. You are just increasing the population, the number of trees that you are growing over there, making it look to the animal as if this is just an extended part of the forest. Then they will migrate. So when they start to migrate, what you will get to see is that the population in both will now get balanced. Are you understanding? The problem in both will be solved now. Now problem is about this area. Try to understand, अगर ये जो area है, जहाँ पे we are growing these trees, if that area belongs to some private individual or to some particular community, तो फिर जाके that community can be convinced, उनको साथ negotiate करके, you can convince them to grow trees so that, and then the right of protection will also be given to them. Then such a wildlife corridor will be given the tag of a community reserve. Are you understanding? If the land had originally belonged to some individual or to a community, तो तब जाके उस area को हम लोग बोलेंगे as a community reserve. On the other hand, if you are establishing this wildlife corridor in an area where the land was earlier uninhabited or it belonged to the government, tab jaake that will be called as a conservation reserve. Are you understanding this? I'll repeat. Let's say you are creating a wildlife corridor. You are creating a wildlife corridor over a particular area of land. जिस land के ऊपर आप बना रहे हो, if that land had belonged to a community, so then that area will be protected under the tag of a community reserve. It was not belonging to the government. So some community had their village, etc., and you are convincing them कि आप इधर trees grow करो, तो फिर जाके this will act like a wildlife corridor, and then you can also earn profit from ecotourism. So they can establish resorts over there. Yes. That. If it is a national, if it's a wildlife sanctuary, they may have to seek the permission and they can be given the permission. Okay? If the area did not belong to individuals or private communities, rather it was uninhabited area or it belonged to the government itself, तब जाके इस area को हम लोग protect करेंगे under the tag of a conservation reserve. Are you understanding? ठीक है? So what is a community reserve? What is a conservation reserve? India's first community reserve was established near Chennai. Okay. Next, coming to tiger reserve. Tiger reserve again becomes very important. Initially project tiger जब शुरुआत हुआ था, in which year? Which year? 1973. Initially कितने tiger reserves थे? How many initially? Initially जब शुरुआत हुआ था, there were 9 tiger reserves. हर साल एक ना एक क्वेश्चन आता ही रहता है from this tiger reserve. Last year also there was this question from Pakhui Wildlife Sanctuary. पाखुई पूछा ये गया था कि ये पाखुई वाइल्डलाइफ सैंक्चुरी कहाँ पे है. ये तभी आपको याद रहता if you had known कि this same area जहाँ पे you have the Pakke Tiger Reserve also. Pakke Tiger Reserve is in Arunachal. ठीक है? In Arunachal we have some other tiger reserves as well. पक्के को छोड़ के is there any? देखो ये जो नॉर्थ ईस्टर्न सेक्शन है, उधर से ना बहुत सारे क्वेश्चंस आते रहते हैं. Be it for tribes or for wildlife, you will have questions coming from there. Not all, but anything which is there in the news. थोड़ा सा देख लेना. Just for your information, some important tiger reserves which are there in Arunachal, apart from Pakke, is Namdhapa. And we also have the 50th. In India, we have 50 tiger reserves. So the 50th tiger reserve is also there in Arunachal, जिसका नाम है कामलांग tiger reserve. This is the 50th tiger reserve established in India. Initially शुरू हुआ था 9 से, अब जाके we have 50. Last one was also established in Arunachal, Kamlang. ठीक है, अच्छा टाइगर रिजर्व. सो प्रोजेक्ट टाइगर के बारे में आपको जानना है. ऑल्सो यू नीड टू नो कि हाउ इज द, देखो जस्ट याद करो ऑल दोज पीपल हु हैड अटेंडेड द क्लासेस, हम लोगों ने बात किया था कि इनिशियली टाइगर सेंसस विच इज ऑल इंडिया टाइगर सेंसस कंडक्टेड एवरी 4 years. Every 4 years we have all India tiger census conducted. On the other hand, all India, देखो all India तो है नहीं, सिर्फ गुजरात में लायंस मिलते हैं, but usually the lion census it is conducted around 4 to 5 years interval के बाद. But then tiger census जो है every 4 years will have the all India tiger census which is conducted. ठीक है. Earlier we had the pug mark method. Pug mark was, that was measured, that was compared, and on that basis numbers were decided, but then it led to overcounting, double counting, etc., which was giving some inaccurate figures. Later on, what has been established now? So nowadays we have things like camera trapping which is done. I have mentioned these in the classes.